Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Regional Queensland voted for the Liberal National Party. What do they make of the Labor government and greenslide? While Labor's election victory has been celebrated in parts of the country, regional Queensland remains coalition heartland. Labor does not hold a single seat north of Blair, just south of Noosa, with the LNP retaining 70% of federal seats in Queensland, leaving many in the agriculture and mining sectors worried the inner-city electorate's embrace of the Greens could deepen the regional divide between city and country. George Scott is grazier on Thylungra Station in southwest Queensland and said support for the Greens in the southeast was a surprise. It is certainly something that gives me concern in terms of where agriculture aligns itself and where we sit and the bigger picture, Mr Scott said. We certainly feel that at times we are taking an unfair level of responsibility for emissions in Australia, particularly cattle, but a lot of agriculture seems to be an easy whipping boy for climate change. A lot of that is undeserved and uneducated to an extent. He said agricultural voters were mostly loyal to the LNP, but Labor's election win and changing attitudes in the southeast were reasons for him to self-reflect on his own beliefs and where they align. We are generally a very, very loyal voting bloc, therefore, one side takes us for granted, and the other side takes no interest because nothing much is going to change how we vote. So I think our rural seats and agriculture, in general, suffers from that. It is a time for us, and me personally, to consider whether or not where we are becoming too disconnected. The majority of public opinion seems to be moving further away from us. As participants in society we have to consider where we are sitting and why we are there and whether or not we actually do need to adapt. Labor believes city-country divide is closing. Queensland Labor Senator Murray Watt said the party made a real effort after the 2019 election to reconnect with regional Queensland, and believe swings away from the LNP this time were the result of that. We spent a lot of time out there listening to people, meeting with different groups to understand why people reacted so badly against us in 2019, he said. We put forward a lot of really strong policies about new industries, how we could create jobs, how we could maintain our traditional industries and importantly how we could continue to improve health services, which is such a big issue in regional Queensland. Election news. I think it is a matter of continuing to engage really strongly, spending lots of time in our regions, making those connections, continuing to understand the issues that people confront. Mr Watt said the election results showed the city-country divide was closing. We're coming more to the centre in Queensland than where we were 3 years ago. I think after the last election there was a really massive divide between the city and the bush in Queensland. But as I say this time those margins have come in a lot more. He said although the Greens have been elected to the House of Representatives for the first time in Queensland at this election, overall I think that the results are much more coming towards the middle. Even in Albo's victory speech on Saturday night he made a real point that he wanted to be a Prime Minister that brings people together. He is someone who will try and bridge any divides between the regions and the cities. Emissions too fast too soon. For Clermont pharmacist Grant Oswald, Labor's win made him nervous for the future of the mining town he serves. He said he believed the regional divide would deepen unless the new government made a conscious effort to work with regional communities. As much as I agree that we need to do something about climate change and everything like that, we also still need to protect our industries and our jobs, and our regional towns, Mr Oswald said. He said people in cities needed to understand the needs of towns like Clermont. Talking to a few people in the shop yesterday, we wish we could get those people up here to the bush and actually see what we do up here, what the agriculture industry means to us and of course, what the mining industry does too and what they do for our little towns up this way. We really need to see them, get up here, get out in the bush and don't just forget that we're here. Central Queensland farmer Richard Fairley was also concerned about the new government's transition to renewables, which will include a 43% reduction in emissions by 2030, will be too fast and hurt regional Queensland. Don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with caring for the environment, but drastic movement and getting away with it is going to hurt a lot of people, Mr Fairley said. I think I'll be one of them. Mr Fairley's property nearby Luala lies in the electorate of Flynn,